joining us right now on the stream. As you can see him as he joins Mike Gill every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It is Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. His must-win column is out now. Phillies need vaccinated pitching right now, says Mike McGarry. Mike, how are you doing on this Friday?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you? Where's Gil? Taking the day off?
Gil is with his baseball team who are in the regionals today. So.
Oh, okay. There you go. There you go.
So Mike is actually, he's not working here, but he's technically still doing work, if you want to phrase it that way.
Right. Getting a third base, some signs. Hit away. There you go.
Exactly. So, Mike, I'm so glad your must-win column is about pitching because I feel like I've been screaming about this for the last few days because to me, aside from the fact they had the COVID issues, I felt that the two losses to the Yankees were honestly embarrassing. And then today, we see the Mets, they went out and got Rich Hill, and I know it's not a high-profile move, but Rich Hill would probably be very nice right now in the Phillies rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. Rich Hill is a guy, especially with Zach Eflin out, would fit in nicely as a starter there. He is about 40 years old. He's an experienced pitcher. He's been in some big games. He's a 5-inning guy. He's probably not going to go 7 or 8. But, the Phillies could use a guy like that right now. Go out there and pitch 5 effective innings, especially with what they have, the issues they have. And my concern is, and the reason I wrote the column today is, one, everybody's talking about whether they're going to be buyers or sellers on July 30th. I'm worried about them having the pitching to make it to July 30th. They began a stretch last night where they played 20 straight games. And you saw last night, ordinarily, Matt Moore is out of that game last night in the 3rd or 4th inning, right? Yeah. But they pitch him through the 6th because they don't have anybody else to bring in, partially because of COVID, because Bailey Falter is a guy who came in and given him some length, but he's on the COVID list. So I'm saying for practical purposes, get some pitching in here and make sure it's vaccinated pitching. Because you don't want to trade for a reliever and watch him sit out. After July 30th, they got 59 games left, right? You don't want to trade for a reliever on July 30th and then watch him get caught up in COVID stuff and miss 10 of those 59 games, or trade for a starter who gets caught up in COVID stuff and miss 2 to 3 starts. So to maximize the value, I think, get some pitching in here and make sure it's vaccinated.
Yeah, and listen, I understand that, Dombrowski did that interview with John Clark where he says, hey, we can score enough runs to overcome our defense and our pitching. But, Mike, guess what? The last 3 games proved they can't always outscore the pitching and the defense. They need more pitching, and they need plenty of it because, like you said, they're in a stretch right now where if they don't get the pitching they need, they're going to fall out of this race really quick.
Right, and things change quickly, right, this time of year. I talked about this with Gil. We were talking about how on Monday you have one position, on Wednesday you have another. It was just on Sunday we were all full of optimism, right? They could have closed to within a game of the Mets. Now they're 5 back in the loss column, 5 days later. So things change quickly, and July 30th might be around the corner, might be a week from today, basically, but a lot can happen in those 7 days. And I agree with you. Earlier this month, they went 10-4 because they out-hit their mistakes, right? They were able to do that. They averaged 6 runs a game. They were able to come back. Bullpen blows a save. JT Realmuto gets up, hits a winning home run. But you can't do that consistently, and you can't ask the offense to score 7-8 runs every night. Some games you got to win 4-3.
Mike McGarry, the must-win column is right there at the Press of AC, PressOfAtlanticCity.com. Phillies need vaccinated pitching, Mike McGarry says. Check out the full article right there, the must-win column. Now, Mike, you mentioned about the scoring. What's interesting is the Phillies and the Braves have the same exact record right now, 47-48. But the Phillies are minus 16 in run differential. The Braves are plus 30. If that doesn't tell you in and of itself the importance of having enough pitching, I don't know what does, because I'm looking at the game last night. Guess what? The Braves bullpen, they got the job done. The Phillies, like you said, Matt Moore is going out there. So if you're Dave Dombrowski, or maybe if Dave Dombrowski picks up his phone and gives you a call, Mike, and he says, Mike, who do I need to go get? What are you telling Dombrowski when it comes to going out and getting pitching? Are you saying you need starter, you need bullpen, you need both? What are you telling Dave Dombrowski right now?
I think you need both. I think the number one target for them, however, would be Craig Kimbrell, the Cubs closer. If they could get an actual major league quality closer in here, I would think it'd be a big difference. And then with Eflin's injury right now, and he's got the knee trouble, and, is at Citizens Bank yesterday. He looked to be walking fine. The Phillies expect him back when his stint on the 10-day injured list is over. But again, my thing with injuries is I'll believe you're back when you're back. In the way Moore and Velasquez had pitched, they could use another starter, a.k.a. a guy like Rich Hill, to sort of solidify that rotation. So I think, a closer, to me, Kimbrel is the guy. A lot of people got excited about Ranger Suarez. He had 2 saves, then he has 2, a shaky outing last Friday night, and then a shaky outing up at Yankee Stadium. I don't know if Ranger is the answer. So that's it. To me, it's Kimbrel as the number 1 guy, and then a starter to sort of solidify that rotation, especially with the question marks around it right now.
Dombrowski said recently in that John Clark podcast, Mike, that he wants to be reasonable at the deadline. He doesn't want to give up the best prospects, but he understands you have to give up somebody. I heard Jason Stark this morning on MLB Central say that this Phillies ownership trusts Dombrowski implicitly, that if he tells them we need to do this or that, they're going to do it. So who would you trade then under that premise? Who are some guys that you look at, like, is Alec Bohm maybe available to maybe be traded? Are you looking at certain minor leaguers to be traded? Because you got to give up something in these deals.
Yeah, I mean, the word on the Phillies minor league system is that they do not have many elite prospects, but they do have some depth in the organization. Maybe the trade comes from there. I think a guy who could be traded, and again, no reporting about this whatsoever, no inside knowledge, no anything, but just from my own viewpoint, a guy who could be attractive, who you could leverage to get a good guy back is Spencer Howard. I think he's a guy that you might, part with to get a guy like Craig Kimbrel or, an elite level, not elite level, a top level major league closer or a top level starter. And again, I'm not trading Spencer Howard for a rental, but I am trading Spencer Howard for maybe a guy I could control next year going forward. So, you're right. I mean, the thing that they don't have a lot is they don't have a lot player-wise to offer. What they do have a lot is they can take on money and contracts from other teams. That's their other option.
Now, I talked about Alec Bohm before you came on. I want to ask you, Mike, what is your position on Bohm? Because I'm conflicted on him. On one part of me that says, be patient with the guy. He's still young. He hasn't even played 162 Major League games yet. But another part of me says, I would really like to see Chris Bryant in a Phillies uniform. And if it takes Alec Bohm to get him, I'm willing to make that trade. So I'm conflicted. Where do you stand on Alec Bohm?
Yeah, my position on Alec Bohm is, he has no position. That's, it's the old joke, like, what position does Alec Bohm play? And you say he hits. No, and you say, no, really, tell me, what position does he play? And you say he hits, and he hasn't really hit well this year. Maybe it's a sophomore slump. I find it hard to believe that his problems in the field have not carried over to the offensive side of the plate. I think he's a guy who I would like to see more of. I don't think he's a guy you deal now. I'd like to give him the rest of the season. He's back today off the COVID list. If you were to move Alec Bohm, I think you move him in the offseason when you have more time to think about the deal and what you can get back. And plus you give him another 60, 70 games to sort of see what you have here. What I do know in looking at him is that he's not a third baseman and he can't play third base. Next year, the Phillies can't start the season with Alec Bohm at third base. They might be able to start with him somewhere in the lineup, but it can't be at third base.
Would you rather trade in the offseason then Bohm or Hoskins? Because you can't keep both, right?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to those moves of, and I agree with you 100%, I think the Phillies core, the players that make up the core, and Bohm, Hoskins, Segura, Gregorius, Harper, Realmuto, they're all Nola, Wheeler, they're all part of that core. I think that core needs to be tweaked, refined, and changed if the Phillies are going to be a consistent playoff contender. I think the best time to do that is in the off season when you can sort of get away from the season a little bit, take some time and really, get a quality deal in place. I don't think you should be rushed at this point. But I think, it's hard to envision a roster next year, to answer your question, with Bohm and Hoskins both on it. But I don't know if the time is right in the next week to trade them. I'm going to look to make that deal or any deals to the core in the offseason. But I agree 100%. That core needs to be tweaked. Because right now, to me, the Phillies are like, they're hoping for the 1993 Phillies year. They're hoping everybody has career years at once. And you go to the World Series in 1993. Well, that didn't sustain itself. That, in order to have sustainable success, I think that Phillies core needs to be, revised. And to me, that revision comes in the offseason, not going into a trade deadline right now, especially when you're in the race. Why not ride it out, and see what happens, basically. You're not chasing the 27 Yankees and the New York Mets. They're as Florida team as anybody.
Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City joining us here on 97.3 ESPN on a happy hour Fridays. Must-win column is up right now. Phillies need vaccinated pitching right now. That is must-win column over at pressofatlanticcity.com. Mike, I want to spin it local with you for a minute here. My favorite local story, I know there's a bunch of guys who have been hired locally as head coaches, but my favorite local story this week is Bo Melton of Cedar Creek is a nominee on the watch list for the Blitnikoff Award. And that in and of itself is such a cool thing to me because, number one, I mean, Rutgers having a wide receiver in the Blitnikoff Award is rare. But that also, it's a guy from South Jersey who was an amazing weapon at Cedar Creek and now getting recognition in college.
Yeah, it's a great story, and it's great, yesterday following on social media, on Twitter, I guess Bo's on the private jet going out to Big Ten Media Day out there in Indiana to represent Rutgers. You see some of the stuff that Bo and his brother have done with the billboard out by Egg Harbor Township and some of the, the licensing thing they've done and stuff like that. So it's really great to see. And if you watched Bo play in high school football, he was – games still stick out in my mind where he did everything. It was like watching the old Bugs Bunny cartoon, right? Play baseball. He intercepted a pass, returned it for a touchdown. He threw a touchdown pass on an option. He caught a touchdown pass. He ran for a touchdown. Obviously a great high school career. His career got off to a slow kind of start at Rutgers, but last year with Chiano coming back, he had a big season. Obviously he's got NFL potential ahead of him. Him and his three brothers, Gary Sr., Gary Jr., the older brother, Bo, and Malachi, are just great, fantastic kids, a great family, and a great local success story that we can all sort of embrace and root for. And that to me is fun. Turn on the TV Saturday afternoon and flip it on a college football game and rooting for kids that and have been in the area and you watch kind of grow up. That's an awful lot of fun, and that's a lot of fun to do. And it's great that the Melton family is experiencing that success right now.
And listen, a year from now, we may be talking about Bo Melton getting drafted too, because he's considered a draft prospect for the draft next year.
Right, exactly. And maybe we can, we kind of lived it with Chase Petty, a Mainland Regional this year, and a bunch of other local baseball players getting drafted. Maybe, next year is Bo's opportunity. But I can't say enough about just what, I've known Bo since he was a freshman at Cedar Creek. Just what an outstanding young man he is and what an outstanding family he comes from. He's really a guy that, this entire area should get behind and really support, every Saturday that he plays.
He is Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Go check out his latest must-win column, Phillies Need Vaccinated Pitching, right now at pressofatlanticcity.com. Mike, enjoy the conversation today. Have a good weekend.
All right, we'll see you down the road. Enjoy the weekend. Thank you.